Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorkel Profiles. I'm here with my friend, co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Joining us today is Katie Dills. Katie Dills didn't grow up dreaming of residential cleaning, but after earning her degree in business administration, she was introduced to franchising when her mother in law, a cleaning authority franchisee, began asking for help. That hands on experience sparked Dill's curiosity about the franchise model and its potential. She watched her mother in law build a thriving business and soon partnered with her to co own a second territory. What began as a cautious step into entrepreneurship quickly grew into a passion. Today, Dill serves as brand president of the Cleaning Authority, where she leads a system that has expanded to more than 250 territories nationwide, with franchisees approaching 1 million cleans each year. Let's explore Katie's journey from franchisee to brand president and the insight she's gained about building and sustaining a successful franchise system. We're so excited to have you, girl.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
It just goes to show you never know where you're going to end up when somebody asks you for help.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right here I am.
I want to hear more about that journey into franchising.
Sure. Yeah, happy to walk you through it. So as Rebecca shared, I had graduated from college and my mother-in-law had launched her first franchise of the Cleaning Authority. And she had come from a background in entrepreneurship and franchising. She had been with H&R Block for many years. And when she decided to leave, she pursued and she did her due diligence, really just exploring franchise concepts. And very similar to what you said, really had no idea that she would land in residential cleaning. But doing her due diligence and getting to know the original founders of the Cleaning Authority and the support and the systems, everything in place, she knew that was the right fit for her. And so really I watched her launch her business, and it wasn't until after I graduated college and I was working in corporate America that, she really started again leaning on me for help and in terms of HR support. And that's when I just became so fascinated in what she was doing in this business that she was building and the impact that she was having on the community, right? Both through employing individuals and coaching them and helping them succeed and grow. And then with customers as well, right? Really truly delighting our customers, which is a passion of the Cleaning Authority and part of our system and model. So yeah, just a really unique path, and ultimately left my full-time job, took a leap of faith and joined her full-time working for your mother-in-law. Was definitely a concern and played into the decision, but I felt there was something in me that felt this was the right path for me, and I knew that I could make a difference, and having purpose is a big part of what drives me.
Oh, thank you for sharing that story. And I do want to ask about working with your mother-in-law. My daughter-in-law has worked with me almost 8 years.
Okay.
Um, and it was when she had her last grandson that you and I were talking about a little bit earlier, and she wanted to be at home full time. And it's been a wonderful experience for me and for her, and really has had us grow closer with a similar vision. But tell me about that working relationship with your mother-in-law, the benefits, the good, the bad, the ugly. I want to know more about that.
Yeah. I would describe her, she's a very focused, very driven, very successful woman. And again, I am like-minded in that regard. And so while I knew there would be times that, it would be difficult and it would be challenging, I knew at the end of the day, I would grow as a professional in business, and she would really just open my world to new opportunities. And so I knew it was going to be challenging. But I knew it would pay off in the end, and that's exactly what it was. She taught me again everything about both entrepreneurship and franchising because she had that background. And if I didn't have that foundation, I wouldn't be where I am today.
I
Wow.
love her already.
Right. What was most surprising to you when you started working with her?
With her specifically, right? Because you get to see someone, both personally and professionally. And I think what was most surprising is that who she is as a person outside of work was similar to who she was inside of the office. The way she treated the employees and the customers, always putting the employees first. She was very, very passionate about investing in the staff and really instilled that in me. And I would say she is a true, firm but fair boss, and I think that's critical in this business and building this business. And so while that was both surprising, it was I guess not so surprising or not so shocking at the same time.
Yeah. So I find it interesting. The initial bring you into the business was because of your expertise in human resources and administration and things of that nature. So she was already really committed to service and growing her employees, but she recognized something in you. She recognized. So I'm just curious, if you put yourself in her shoes, what did she see in you where she was able to seduce you to come work with her?
I like those words that you used. Yeah. It was the potential and the opportunity, right? That you could create a career in working for yourself. Right? If you've had a job in corporate America, you know the challenges and the struggles, and you may or may not have the opportunities that you could in franchising and entrepreneurship. But it takes passion, it takes hard work and dedication. And I know that she saw those things in me, just the way I approached life and how fitness is important to me and my dedication throughout college. I know that she saw those characteristics in me. And then opening my world to the opportunities, right? Unlimited potential, really, in entrepreneurship, and that was so intriguing.
Hmm. Okay. So
I don't mean to interrupt, Tracy, forgive me, but I'm trying to guess if I was in her shoes what I saw. You kind of skimmed over it a little bit. This self-discipline and this focus that you have, she clearly saw, right? And she saw some kind of potential that youth had not yet allowed you to express, right? And she wanted to nurture that, but she didn't take someone raw, unready. You already had this drive, this discipline through, school and athletics and things of that nature. But Tracy, I'm going to go to you because you have insight into people that blows me away every
Mhm.
time we do podcasts. What do you see in Katie? What do you believe her mother-in-law saw?
Well, I think first of all, her dedication with her course of study, right? Business, because usually, younger people, they're into a lot of things, but it's more like not how do I set the stage for my life. A lot of people don't know their course of study. A lot of people are pursuing more pleasureful things. And she probably saw like this tenacity and like you said, Rebecca, this focus,
Mhm.
that you have is what I'm imagining. But also probably she saw some of herself in you, I would
I
imagine.
think that's it. Oh my gosh, it
Yeah.
gives me chills, girl.
Yeah.
I got the chills too. I think she probably saw some of herself in you and said, this is who I was when I was younger,
Yeah.
and what I was able to do, and I know she can do it too. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a touch of stubbornness inside me, and I'll say she has it too. However, I think that it's the passion, right? It's the passion and the commitment to excellence and the drive. But we'll use that word.
I love it.
Right.
And my mother was a very stubborn person. It runs in our family, goes back generations. But she reframed it for me. She called it willful determination, not stubbornness. And I thought that softens the word a little bit, but that's exactly what it is,
I
right?
like it. I'm going to use it.
Determination. Okay. So we worked together for a while. We decided to open a second territory. Walk us through that. And then how in the world did you leave being a franchisee to coming in-house to be the brand president?
Sure, sure, right. And looking back, right. It's an incredible journey for sure. Yeah, so we decided to launch a second territory, and at that time, there were several of us involved in the business. So it had become a full-on family affair. My husband at the time, his brother, his father-in-law. So all of us were involved in the business, and it really made a lot of sense. This was her original intent when she purchased the territory because it was large enough to support the two locations, and so she built the one, and then when the time was right, we split it off and opened the second. And while I helped launch that, I took over the original operation. Really, she was ready at that point to start stepping down and transitioning someone into the business. But it was very important to her that when I come into the business that I learned from the ground up. So I spent many, many weeks cleaning. I was the low man on the totem pole in the family. So if we needed help for the day, I was the volunteer that was going out to clean or to train. But that experience was invaluable for me, right? You have to understand the system and the model, and you've got to be able to relate to the staff and spending the time with the customers in the field. So the time in the field is just invaluable. But over time, again, I took on more and more in the business. It was a slow transition, working my way up, kind of assisting her as in operations, and then ultimately took over the operation. And then while this wasn't in the plan, in 2016, the CEO at the Cleaning Authority at the time, who knew her because he had launched his franchise business about the same time, had approached us both for an opportunity because they were looking to build out the corporate support team. I was local. It was just a natural fit. I always have a passion for more. And when I saw, what we were accomplishing as a family in our community, I then realized that the opportunity that I could have to influence, right, franchise businesses across the country and help shape the future of the Cleaning Authority. And that was just so compelling. And I had great respect for the CEO at the time too. So I came to the corporate office, met the team, and really didn't look back at that point. I was really excited about my future.
Wow.
So
What a
every
willingness to learn you had. A
yeah.
willingness to learn, just so open to, you know, go from the bottom up, but also to assist your mother-in-law at every level that she was at, just like the wind beneath her wing.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool too that everything you learned, you are now making sure other franchisees. So it's having babies, right? It's
Mm.
basically you're multiplying what the two of you created together, and now you're multiplying and helping other franchisees. So from what everything you learned as a franchisee yourself, have you been able to take as a leader now, as a brand president of the Cleaning Authority? What are you able to take from that to share with your future franchisees or current
Yeah.
franchisees, actually?
Right. And I think, one of the roles that I first took on when I came to the corporate office was taking over and revamping of the new franchise owner training, right? And really instilling in them the same things that my mother-in-law instilled in me, and that you've got to build the foundation, right? So that was the focus of the new franchise owner training. What is it that we need to do? We don't need to worry about all these KPIs and all these other things. We've got to focus on two things: hiring employees and customer acquisition, right? Very, very basic. And so I came in and I did that. And I think having that experience, right, and experiencing the challenges of that, and the day in and the day out, made me the perfect candidate, right, to take over that new franchise owner training. And I was always brutally honest in training. I would say this. I say there's days that I would get in my car at the end of the day and say, I am on top of the world. We are crushing it. Today was the best day. And the next day I'd get in my car and I would cry and say, what are we doing wrong? So I said, but it was those moments that you learn and say, okay, today was chaos. It didn't go well. What do we need to do differently? And knowing that I had the control to make those changes, right? And that's what's so incredibly really just really fascinating about entrepreneurship is, okay, number one, you have to understand when you make a mistake, but number two is what can I do differently tomorrow so that we don't repeat this?
What you just said brings something to mind for me. How in HR, right, we're managing people. And I think that a lot of professionals might be intimidated about getting into business ownership because I hear so often, I don't want to manage people. I don't want to manage people. So, what I want to know is how do you give feedback to people, even when it's negative, in a way where somebody who doesn't want to manage people can still embrace that role?
Yeah, that's a very, very important part of really any service-based business, right? Because it's you're working with people. That's exactly what this is. This is relationship management, right? It's both with the staff and the customers. So I think that inherently, if you're operating the business, right, there you have to enjoy people, or I do think that this business is a challenge. But when it comes to giving feedback, I think that you just have to do self-reflection, right? How would I appreciate receiving feedback as an individual? And what does that look like, right? I think that we all appreciate an approach where if we've made a mistake, we just, number one, we need to understand, right? So you have to have the courage to address the situation before you let it, before you just let it spiral and get out of control. So number one, just having the courage to talk to your staff or, or even if a difficult customer, I think is step one in the process. And then you really just, again, kind of do some self-reflection. If I'm in this person's shoes, how do I want to be treated as an individual? And from there, you kind of find that clarity in how to navigate the situation.
I like that. It's almost like putting yourself in their shoes while at the same time reflecting on yourself and how you would want to hear feedback of some
That's right.
sort. It seems individuals really do want to know they're doing well. And if they're off target, that feedback allows them to show you they can do well. But if we're not giving feedback, it's difficult for them to self-assess because they've not done this job before or been in this role before or worked with you before. So, but I think Tracy's point is well taken in that some aren't comfortable in that role of giving critique. And so that's really good advice, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah. And the more frequent the better too. Right? We've said this before. When you sit down for a performance evaluation, there should never be a surprise. And I think if you take that approach, that's very helpful too, right? And so we're very big on giving feedback to our staff. As a brand, we really value going out into the homes and doing inspections. And that's really not for the quality of the clean. It is for the quality of the clean, but it's to check in with the staff and to have that opportunity for that feedback before it becomes more of a disciplinary conversation, right? Which I think is a more intimidating situation.
Yeah. I have an off the wall question for you.
Okay.
Um, when you look at your life, can you see some thread or a theme or a purpose or a motto or something that seems to play through your life?
Yeah. You know, I get most of my purpose, right, in helping those around me. And I don't mean for that to sound as if I'm a saint or I'm the greatest person in the world because I'm not. But I take a lot of pride in those around me seeing success or being happy, right? And so in this role that I'm in today, that's exactly what gives me motivation. That's what gives me motivation as a mother too, seeing my children grow and become good humans. So that alone gives me a lot of purpose, and that is the thread I think that both goes through my life personally and professionally.
That's beautiful. Do you have any examples of maybe a time where you coached or mentored someone from, maybe they weren't performing, maybe they were disappointing themselves, or just felt they were disappointing you, and you coached or mentored them into a place where like now they are just up and running and so happy?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several examples of that, right? And that's for me one of the things about operating the franchise business that gave me the most purpose, right? It was the opportunity to help coach those around you.
Mhm.
So many times there were instances, with employees who maybe didn't have role models, growing up. And, if an employee would would call and would be struggling, and all of a sudden they lost their car, and they call and they say, well, I can't come to work anymore. And you coach them through something as simple as, well, let's figure out how to get you to work, right? Because without employment and without a paycheck, you're going to be in this endless cycle, right? So sometimes it's something as simple as coaching someone through making decisions or reinforcing that they have the potential. We are just coming out. We host an annual managers summit for the managers across the country, where we bring them into the corporate office. We had over 100 individuals this year, and that
Wow.
was a common theme, and that was how I kicked off the summit, was letting them know that somebody saw something in them, right? Potential that they probably didn't realize that they had, and this was their opportunity to take advantage of that. So I love that aspect of this business, and that gives me a lot of purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, that idea of being able to help grow them, is fulfilling. It's fulfilling to watch. I'm sure it was fulfilling for your mother-in-law to watch and you, and now you're doing it for hundreds, right? So it's got to be rewarding and emotionally satisfying for everyone.
It is. It
So
is. I shared with her that I've done a couple of podcasts now, and told her that of course she's a big part of my journey, and I'm forever grateful for that. And so I know that she's very proud.
I'm sure she is. Pre starting to record, we had a few minutes to spend with you. And one of the things that really stood out to me was this um, faith that you have, this idea that everything happens for a reason. Can you expound on that? What do you mean by everything happens for a reason?
Yeah, we were chatting about this, and I think for me, I don't realize it until I self-reflect, right? And I take a step back, and I look at where I am in my career, or where I am, even personally, and you look back and you say, well, gosh, never could I have predicted, where I am today. But then you start to think through the choices that you made, right? And even taking a leap of faith, right? And when you go back and you say, okay, at the time, I really wasn't sure if I should go down this path, but it felt right. You evaluate the situation, and make a decision. I think that's the number one reason when I do self-reflection, is that I made a decision and I was committed to it. And then you just continue to change the course or make decisions as you go.
Mhm.
So pre-show, we were also talking about how there are times that you become fascinated with something. So where does fascination play in your decision-making
Yes,
process?
like they
Yeah.
overlap. Yeah.
I think it's fascination and curiosity, right? What more can we do? And I think I'm well known at the corporate office for that. And maybe not so much a perfectionist, a little bit of dabbling in perfectionism, but it's more about the potential and the opportunity, right? It's challenging yourself and challenging the status quo. So yes, I think it's that. It's curiosity, and it's the potential. That's what's most fascinating to me. And in the seat that I'm in today, the potential for the cleaning authority is the same as what I said before, even with individuals. It's unlimited. We don't know our potential, and that's fascinating to me, right? And we have the ability to continue to challenge that.
That is so well put, Katie. If we become fascinated with what's possible, what is the potential, and then on top of that, you have this belief that it's unlimited. Every day is fascinating and curious and exciting because what's next? What else can we do? What else can be possible? I mean, so there's no real end to that, is there?
No, there isn't. We recently had our 2026, strategy planning session, and it was informal. I mean, we sat around the room and thought about all the what ifs and what could be's, and how would we get there, and what would that look like. And it wasn't about, this is a revenue target and this is what we want to hit. Of course, we go through that exercise, but it was more about what is possible, or leveraging technology, everything around us, what is possible for the cleaning authority. And that's fun. That's really fun. I enjoy those sessions.
I would love to be a little mouse and there are little, you know,
There.
listen to this conversation.
Oh.
So Tracy, you had a question. Sorry, I keep talking over you because this is so fascinating to me.
No, I'm actually just sitting here wondering, like, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for the brand? What's next?
Yeah. So I think, really, as I mentioned, really technology is opening up our world right now. I don't think we'll have robots cleaning homes quite yet, maybe in another 30 or 45 years. And so what is possible between now and then? And I think that's where we will really look to lean into technology, right? How do we automate more for our franchise owners? How do we make it easier to run a cleaning business? How do we leverage technology to make it easy to be a customer at the cleaning authority? How do we leverage technology for our staff? And so that's really what we're leaning into, probably in our next, I'd say, 3 to 5 years.
I like that.
Mhm.
Technology really can simplify things and create greater efficiencies and greater effectiveness. It's really funny you were talking about robots, Katie, because I recently spoke to a franchisor that are using robots to mow lawns. And I was like, what?
Right, right.
It's kind of amazing where technology, and we don't know what's
Yeah,
next, right, in that area.
right.
You know, let me ask you a question. You are part of Authority Brands. How has this been beneficial to the Cleaning Authority to have like this platform, um, and all the possibilities that come with that? What have been some of the benefits to you?
Yeah, sure. It still feels new to me. It's not new. This is 8 years, 8 years for Authority Brands, right? And we were the original brand, so we had a hand in forming Authority Brands, and we had an early acquisition of Home Watch Caregivers. So we've been together throughout this journey, but it still feels new to me. And we just have continued to build and grow. And what it has done for me is it's really opened up the potential and the opportunity both with other professionals within the organization, but then through private equity as well. For us, we are unique and I think very special in that we have tremendous private equity partners. I mean, they are true partners. So we have direct contact with them. They are involved with us. They recently were involved in exploring, AI for route optimization. And so we really feel that we have true partners. And I don't think that we would have that without Authority Brands and the power of private equity behind us. And so I do really feel grateful for the situation that we're in.
That's so cool because you hear a lot of people talking about private equity and they're only worried about the bottom line and the numbers. And it's like to hear you talk about private equity like that is so refreshing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It was refreshing to meet with them and hear their investment philosophy and a people first, mantra, and then seeing it, right? It's one thing to hear it, that sounds nice, but to see them live that has, again, I'm just really grateful, right? Because that's who I am as a person. I really believe in that we say this, right? We're only successful if our franchise owners are, and they believe that as well.
Katie, remind me what year the Cleaning Authority launched.
So the Cleaning Authority was founded actually in 1977.
I thought it was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and our then our original founders actually purchased. So the woman that founded the detail clean rotation system, her company was called Mighty Maids, and she founded her company in 1977. And then in 1989, Steve and Tim, our original owners and founders, purchased her detail clean rotation system and then renamed the company the Cleaning Authority. And we started franchising in 1995. So this has been a big year for us. This is our 30th year of franchising. And this is where I'm really focused on this. Like we said before, what is the future? What is the next 30 years?
Yeah. Well, and as a legacy franchisor, 30 years is impressive. Never mind the systems and process and methodologies were being created long before that. Um, are you seeing, like your mother-in-law and yourself, where families are now next generation running the business? Are you finding that?
Yes, yes. And we're also starting to see managers who have been involved in the business, right? So not necessarily family members starting to take ownership, which is really cool to see them and to see that in their path. We probably have, oh, I would say about a half a dozen managers at this point who at least have part ownership and have worked their way through that. And then I'd say there's probably another half a dozen of us. We kind of call ourselves the babies of the cleaning authority, right? We came in our early 20s, who have now taken on, ownership within the business, or bought the business from our parents. So it is really cool to see that legacy. And we often hear that, right? When new potential franchise owners are coming in, I want to build a legacy. I want to have something to give to my pass down to my children or anyone in my family. And I think that's a pretty incredible thing.
Nice.
Agreed.
A while ago you mentioned that you've been with the larger organization for 8 years and it still feels new. And I'm wondering, is that because of your excitement about it, your personal excitement? Is it because of your ability to see potential? Is that what makes it feel new?
It could be. I think it's also, we're really, for the longest time, for many years, right? We went through this acquisition, and we all kind of continue to operate in our individual silos, but we're really starting now in the last couple of years to really lean on each other, and find where there's synergies across our brands, right? And just opening the door, right, for those conversations. And so maybe that's what feels so new to me. It was, okay, we have these resources available to us, but oh, okay, well, now we have more so than power of scale, right? We have each other and we have this expertise and years of experience in home services, and how do we leverage that to help each other? And I love the group of individuals that I work with at Authority Brands and the other brand presidents. They're just an incredible group of people who are willing to offer an ear, willing to join a meeting, willing to help in whatever capacity. And again, I hate to use the word family because that can feel cliche, but it does feel that way.
Which brings up another topic, because you're right. You're starting to um, cross support one another and come up with ideas and strengths that one brand has that the other one could learn from, and vice versa. So right now, Authority Brands, how many brands do we have?
15 brands, and then we have Bimax, which is a sister company for us as well.
Okay. And then some of our franchisees, will they own more than one brand? And how does all that work? And are you encouraging that?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that, I would say, is part of probably what falls into the still feels new. We're really starting to, foster those relationships, right? So where we have high performing franchisees across brands in certain cities or pockets in the country, right? We're facilitating those conversations, right? So that they can, again, learn and be around those like-minded individuals. But then we're also providing opportunities to get to know, right, the other brands, and saying, hey, there's opportunity in your market, right? Because we have those synergies with home services. So we have several franchise owners. I don't know off the top of my head how many multi-brand, but within the cleaning authority, oh, we have I would say probably about a dozen at this point, that are not only multi-unit in the cleaning authority, but potentially multi-brand as well. We have more multi-unit than we do multi-brand, but we've started to see that really surge in the last few years as well.
Yeah, I think that's an exciting part about being, we call it at Zoracle, we call it a hybrid, is you guys are experts in the home services and you offer all these different opportunities. And someone who really does want to scale and grow can do so with one brand, or they can add another brand, and it's all the benefits. So, that cross marketing, same client, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
I was
blah, that goes with it. So I'm glad that you guys are encouraging that. And I'm super excited that you're encouraging managers who've already learned what they need to learn just to step up and become owners. My guess is they're going to ramp up faster than someone coming in cold. So that's got to be exciting too.
Yeah, very, very exciting. And you mentioned, you touched on it, right? It's the customer profile that's so similar across the brands, right? And so that's one thing that I think that we can really leverage too as we start to talk about more kind of multi-brand ownership.
Yeah.
What are some of the qualities that you look for in a franchisee or a franchisee that you think can be a multi-brand owner?
Yeah, I think we touched on this earlier, and it does come back to the people aspect of this business, right? Because it's very much relationship building, right? With both your customers and your staff. It's an investment in people on the staff side, and then on your customers as well. It's about building that relationship. So when we reach the point in the discovery process with new franchise owners, I am anxiously waiting for the first question. And that's usually a good indicator of success for me if it's within one of their first three questions, if it has to do with the staff. Because understanding and acknowledging that we have to invest in people, and that is both the number one challenge and the number one opportunity in this business. So I often listen for that to be one of the first few questions in that discovery process. And even if the question is, I've heard this is the number one challenge, that's okay, right? I want them to acknowledge that. And then asking, leaning on our team, leaning on our expertise for, okay, I hear it's a challenge. How do we turn that into an opportunity? And that willingness to being open and receptive to coaching, I think is critical too.
So you mentioned something about two primary things that a franchisee has to focus on. One is hiring, training, retaining great employees, and the other is acquiring customers. Both of which are about people, people, people. It's kind of that internal customer, which is our employees, versus the external customer, which is our customer. And either way, the core is people, right? We have to truly love people. We have to be able to give them feedback. We have to develop them. We have to hold on to them, especially in this market, as you pointed out, where um, staffing can be a problem, right?
Mhm.
It can be a problem. So you have to have the skills to do it right, and hold those people.
Yeah. The
I'm so
hourly space. Oh, I'm
impressed with
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm so impressed with you. Please go ahead.
Oh no, no, it's just the hourly space is very, very competitive, right? And turnover in the hourly space is very high. And so we again, that's where we put our focus. It is a very true statement that happy employees make for happy customers. And so I often say this too in the discovery process, right? If you can get that employee piece right, right, the business will almost run itself. And I know that's stretching a point to make a point, but it's actually true.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Wow. Okay. This conversation could go on forever, Katie, but we want to make sure people know how to get hold of you or learn more about the Cleaning Authority or Authority brands. How would someone do that?
Yeah, listen, I'm an open book and I'm an open door. So I'm pretty easy to reach. Through the organization. You can reach out to me through email. It's very easy, Katie@thecleaningauthority.com. I'm also on social as Katie Clark Dills. I think I am on LinkedIn. So either way, and like I said, I'm an open book and I have an open door. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to talk more about my journey as a woman in leadership, and then of course about the brand. Very proud of who we are.
As you should be. As you should be. Okay, this is a crazy question. I don't know why it even popped in my head. You've
Okay.
got a very interesting last name, Dills.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
anyone poke at you about that?
No, the last time I remember someone poking me about that name was when I was getting married, and I got the question, "Are you going to change your last name?"
I love it.
It's intriguing. I think my boys love it. It's a good sports name. They're both big into sports.
Dills.
My youngest is football, my oldest is soccer, so it's fitting for sports. Katie Clark, that was a great name, though. I have to say, it was hard to give up Clark.
Yeah, I get it. No,
We're
I
proud.
love it because you're right. It does have kind of a feel of uh, take charge and,
Yeah,
you know, sports and all of that. But yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I want to thank you for joining us today. Our conversation around faith and fascination and empowering others and taking what you learned and now sharing it with others and how really that has become not just a passion, but it is your purpose, and how you have trusted this entire journey and made those decisions. And now you're blessing so many others. It's a really, really fascinating story. So thank you for sharing it with us today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure chatting with you both. So thank you both.
It's fun. And Tracy, over to you for final thoughts.
Yeah, so Katie, I think you're fascinating. You know, it's like you're like the surface, the very smooth, calm surface of the diamond, but underneath has so many facets of it, right? To show its brilliance. That's the imagery that's coming to mind for you. And the
Oh,
thing I wanted to highlight is that customer service is a top-down kind of thing, right? So you know, you have a successful team because they're so good at customer service, but there's an internal customer service, which starts with you, and you're so approachable and you care about people and you're developing like these hundreds of leaders. I think that part of the customer service, they're actually seeing you're like the living, breathing example of that. And then they're able to go out and do what they do with their customers because of you. It's coming from the top down. So it's just
thank you.
nice story. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. That was a true compliment. Thank you so much.
Yeah, both internal and external customers. Thank you, Tracy, for that, because that really is Katie in a nutshell. So really appreciate that. All right, and those that are listening in, thank you for listening in. Make sure to comment, like, share, subscribe. And of course, we're going to see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.
Thank you.